Welcome to Elevate English. Elevate your English. Elevate your life. If you found this video informative, please like, share, and subscribe to the Elevate English channel. Let's start our story. The Light Between Us. In the heart of the bustling city of Everbrook, amidst towering glass buildings and the steady hum of urban life, there was a small, unassuming bookstore called the Lighthouse. Nestled between two coffee shops, it was a place that many passed by without a second glance. But for those who sought it out, the Lighthouse offered more than just books. It offered an escape, a moment of stillness in a world that never stopped moving. Catherine, or Cat as she preferred to be called, was the bookstore's owner. She had inherited the shop from her grandmother, a woman who had believed that stories had the power to change lives. As a child, Cat had spent hours among the shelves, getting lost in the worlds that lived between the pages. Now, at 29, she found herself continuing the legacy, though she often wondered if the bookstore still held the same magic it once had. The store was small and business was slow, but Cat found comfort in the familiar scent of old paper and the quiet atmosphere that surrounded her. She lived a quiet life, filled with routine and a steady stream of customers who came and went. Her heart, however, remained closed off. A few years earlier, she had loved deeply and lost painfully, and since then, she hadn't allowed anyone close enough to hurt her again. She had built walls around herself, and the only love she allowed in was for the books she curated with care. But in the quiet of her solitude, Cat also wondered about the possibility of something more. She longed for connection, for the spark of shared moments and laughter, for a love she could never quite let herself dream of. Her past held her back, but she always found herself quietly yearning for something to rekindle her belief in love. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon when everything changed. The bell above the door jingled softly as a figure entered, dripping wet from the downpour outside. He was tall, with dark, messy hair, and his coat hung heavily from his shoulders. Cat looked up from the book she was shelving, her gaze meeting his. There was something about the way he moved, the quiet intensity of his eyes, that caught her attention. He didn't look like the type who would usually seek shelter in a bookstore. "Sorry," he said, his voice rough from the cold. "Didn't realize the weather was this bad. I'll just wait it out if that's all right." "Of course," Cat replied with a smile, gesturing to a nearby chair. "Feel free to stay as long as you need. Would you like a coffee or tea? It's on the house." The man hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Tea sounds good, thanks." Cat moved behind the counter, preparing the tea. As she did, she found herself stealing glances at him. He was flipping through a book in his hands, his brow furrowed in concentration. His presence felt different from the usual customers who came in and out. There was a quiet energy about him, as though he had a story to tell, but wasn't sure how to share it. "Here you go," Cat said, placing the cup in front of him. "What are you reading?" The man looked up, surprised by the question. He smiled, a hint of warmth in his expression. "Just something to pass the time," he said. "It's an old novel. I found it on a shelf in the back. Not sure why, but it spoke to me." Cat's curiosity piqued. That's a good sign. Books do have a way of finding the right reader. He chuckled softly, taking a sip of the tea. "I never really believed in that kind of thing. But I guess there's always a first time." They fell into an easy conversation after that, talking about books, life, and everything in between. His name was Luke. He was new to the city, having recently moved here for work. He wasn't sure what he was looking for in Everbrook, but the bookstore seemed to be calling to him, like it had something to offer that he couldn't yet understand. As they spoke, Kat couldn't help but notice how comfortable she felt around him. He was kind, thoughtful, and had a quiet confidence that put her at ease. Before long, the rain had stopped, and the afternoon sunlight filtered in through the windows. But Luke didn't rush to leave. He lingered, talking to Kat about his experiences in different cities, his travels, and the places he had lived. It turned out that he had a deep love for literature, a passion that was almost contagious. The more they talked, the more Kat realized how much she had missed the company of someone who truly understood the magic of stories. As the conversation drew to a close, Luke glanced at his watch, his expression softening. "I should probably be going," he said reluctantly. "But I wanted to thank you for the tea and the conversation." Kat smiled, feeling a strange warmth in her chest. "It was my pleasure. It's not often we get someone like you in here." Luke hesitated for a moment, as if he was about to say something more. But then he smiled again, the same quiet smile that had caught her attention when he first entered. "I'll be back," he said, his voice filled with a promise. "There's something about this place. I think I need to spend more time here." Kat watched as he left, a part of her surprised by the sudden connection she felt. She hadn't expected anyone to stir something inside her so quickly, but Luke had. His presence was like a spark, something that ignited a flame she had long buried. Over the next few weeks, Luke became a regular at the lighthouse. He would come in almost every afternoon, sometimes with a book in hand, other times simply to sit and talk. They spent hours together, sharing their thoughts on the stories they read and the lives they had lived. Slowly, but surely, Kat found herself letting her guard down. Luke didn't push her, didn't ask about her past, but he was there, offering her a kind of companionship that felt natural. One evening, as the city streets turned dark and quiet, Luke invited Kat to dinner. She was hesitant at first, unsure if she was ready to take that step. But something in her told her that this was different, that Luke was different. They met at a small restaurant near the bookstore, the ambience warm and intimate, with soft candlelight flickering on the table between them. As they sat down, Luke looked at her with a quiet intensity, his gaze soft but unwavering. "I don't know how to say this," he began, his voice low. "But I feel like there's something here. Between us." Kat's heart skipped a beat. She had been feeling it too, that pull, that connection. But she hadn't wanted to admit it, hadn't wanted to risk getting hurt again. "Luke, She started, but he reached across the table, gently placing his hand over hers. "I'm not asking for anything, Kat. I don't want to miss the chance to see where this goes. To see where we go." In that moment, something shifted. All the walls she had built around her heart seemed to crumble, and for the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe in the possibility of love again. "I think I'd like that," as she whispered, her voice barely audible. From that night on, their connection grew stronger. Luke became not just a regular at the bookstore, but a constant presence in Kat's life. They spent their days lost in conversations about books, their dreams, and the lives they hoped to create together. The more time they spent together, the more Kat realized that Luke wasn't just a man she had met by chance. He was someone who had slowly worked his way into her heart, someone who understood her in a way that no one else ever had. One rainy afternoon, months after their first meeting, Luke came into the bookstore as usual. But this time, there was something different in his eyes. He walked straight to the counter, his expression serious yet hopeful. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice steady. "About us. About this place, this life we've built together." Kat's heart raced as she listened, the weight of his words settling in her chest. "I don't want to just visit you anymore," he continued. I want to build something here with you. For us. Something that feels like home. Tears welled in Kat's eyes, but she didn't speak. She didn't need to. She had already given him her heart, piece by piece, without even realizing it. Luke smiled, as if he had been waiting for this moment just as much as she had. I love you, Kat, he whispered. And in that moment, amidst the shelves of books that had witnessed so many stories, Kat realized that she had finally found the one story that would never end. Her own love story with Luke, a story that would continue to unfold between the pages of their lives, forever. Months passed, and the bookstore began to thrive. More and more people were drawn to the charm of the lighthouse. Word spread that it was not only a place for books but also a place for conversation, for connection, for something deeper. Kat and Luke had become a team, their lives intertwined not only by their shared love of stories but also by the kind of love that made the world feel brighter. They continued to grow together, supporting each other through their ups and downs of life. Luke's presence had brought a lightness into Kat's world that she hadn't even known she was missing. She had stopped fearing the future and began to embrace it, knowing that whatever it held, she wouldn't have to face it alone. In time, they began to dream of bigger things, a future where the bookstore expanded, where they could build a life full of love, laughter, and stories. They talked about marriage, about children, about growing old together in a home filled with books, with love, and with the kind of memories that made life worth living. It was on a quiet morning, a year after Luke's first visit to the bookstore, that he proposed. He had planned it perfectly, choosing the spot where they had first truly connected, the small table by their window, the same place where they had shared their first dinner together. As the sunlight streamed through the glass, he took her hand and, with a soft smile, asked her to be his forever. I can't imagine my life without you in it, Kat. Will you marry me? Kat's heart swelled with emotion as she nodded, her eyes filling with tears. Yes, she whispered. Yes. And so, their story continued, a story of love, of healing, of two souls coming together to create something beautiful. The lighthouse had once been just a bookstore, but now it was a place where love had blossomed, where two hearts had found their home. The end.